Welcome back to PJ's CAD class. Today we would like to model this texture men's ring. A lot of time people feel like this kind of texture would be nice to hand carve on the wax, but actually we can build it really nicely in the CAD model. So let's take a look what kind of command we will need to use. First, we need the sweep one to create the simple men's ring, and we will go to the Google to find out what kind of a texture we needed. Then we will use the hide fill command to creating the texture from the image, and then after that we'll flow along the surface to flow the texture to the surface. Okay, let's get started. Let's start with the simple ring band. I'm going to go at the front view, making a circle for roughly about 16 millimeter. It can be any size you like. Then I'll go to the right view. Let me enlarge right here. And since it's a men's band, so it could be really wide, I'm going to use the line from midpoint, snapping to the quad, and I would like to make it like 8 millimeter wide, which is pretty wide for a ring. And then I just gonna simply making the outline like this, and my grid snap is on, so you'll see that it was snapping into the grid, and I'll do the same to the other side. Then I will use the arc. The second one that icon here is start end point on the arc. So snapping into the end point, and now we have a profile. Well, since this is a jewelry, the sharp angle is not gonna be comfortable to wear, so I would like to make a radius on all the corner. Inside of a ring shank, I'll do 0.5. So I pick up this curve and that curve. So that make it 0.5. On the top, I would like to change to 0.3. And again, you can change those number based on what you like for the profile. Now, once I have everything, I'm just gonna go ahead and join all of them. Okay. Let's look at the perspective view, and to create this ring we will just go into surface and we can sweep one. You pick on the rail and then pick on the cross section. So now we have this ring, and I'm going to turn into the ghost view and also change the color. Purple is not a good color to see. Okay, I think this should be better. Now, what we need to do is we need to know the area in the center. If I flatten out, how big the area is going to be. So I'm going to the tool right here is extract the surface. I'm going to extract the surface right in the middle. Now I have that individual surface. What we're going to use next is under the curve menu, you have curve from the object, and then you can create a UV curve. So this is the surface we want to create a UV curve. What that means is, I'm gonna turn on my gumball. If I move up this here, this area, I'm going to make it into the surface using the command surface from planar curve. So this area is this center surface. If you flatten out, it will look like this. And why we need this is because we need to know how big of the texture surface we need to create. Once we finish that, we go to the Google, and then what I did in the Google is I type it rock texture. So I found you can type it all kind of texture like wood texture, but what you wanted to find is has really distinguished black and white on it. So I'm going to save this image to my let me put it on the desktop. Okay, so next we're gonna go back to a Rhino, and then we're gonna look at the top view. All right, the command you're gonna use next is called high fill. And it will ask you to pick up your texture, and then you can draw any of the length. And what I did is I snapping into the endpoint of the texture, the surface I have. I'm sorry, the surface that I have, and the height I set it into 1 millimeter. You don't want to be too high. And I'm going to lower the number that you see. What's the difference? If I do 40 by 40 and I hit enter, and I'm gonna turn this in the render view, you can see the texture is kind of really smooth. Okay, now I'm going to move this on the side just for the comparison, and I'm going to do one more time high fill. Oops. Move it on the side and turn this into the ghost. All right, I'm gonna do high fill again and pick up exactly the same one, and going to snap. If you look at my top view, it snapped endpoint to endpoint. All right, I'm going to change much higher, say 100 by 100, and I still set it into the height for 1 millimeter. Now let's compare those two. You see the texture that we have? It's a lot more close to the image compared to this one. This one is a lot more smoother. Okay, and since I only need that little section, I don't want it to be smooth. I want it to be really bumpy. And it's really up to you, like what kind of texture you want it to use. I'm going to turn this back to the ghost view so you can see what I have there. All right, so the texture right there, it's a good bump for me, and I'm gonna use the curve that I have and to trim the rest of it that I don't need. All right, so now you see I have the texture like this. Now there's a little trick here. If you go ahead and flow this to the surface, you're going to notice, and I'm going to turn this into other color so it's easier for you to see. If you're gonna flow this directly to the surface, you're going to notice the end, it won't match. As you can look at the end, is go like this way, and the other end is a lot more bumpier, so that doesn't match. So what I like to do is I'm going to draw a line and snapping into the midpoint and use that to trim one side off. All right, so now what we need to do is to mirror this side to the other side. So right in the middle, let me turn into a render view again. You can see it might be a little bit line, but it matches better over there. And of course at the end it will match too. Okay, and then we're going to simply join it. And if you don't like the surface there, you might want to, find out what area of the high fill image that you like. It doesn't have to be on one of the corner. This is just for the demonstration purpose. Okay, so turning back to the ghost view, what we see now is a surface. We want to flow to this surface right there. The command we're gonna use is leaving under the transform. It's called flow along surface. So I'm going to pick up this texture, hit enter, and I'm gonna pick up the base surface, which is the green one underneath it. And then I'm going to pick up the target surface, which is the one in the middle right here. Now you, right. All right, now we have a flow. Look like we have a little bit overlapping. I guess we have a little bit extra over there. That's right. So I'm going to go to the top view, and I'm going to 1D scale this guy from the endpoint to this endpoint, so we don't have that little extra right there. Okay, let me do one more time. We're going to pick up go to the transform. Under the transform, you have flow along surface. You pick up the surface, hit enter, and then you pick up the base surface, and then is the target surface. All right, so now we have a perfect match. We no longer need this, we're just gonna hide it. Okay, let's go to the perspective. To be 3D printing, we need to make sure it's one single shell. So we don't actually need the surface inside right there. Okay, now we just need to trim all the extra out. Okay, so what I like to do is I'm going to use the middle one, use the green one to trim those extra that's folding on the edge. So I'm going to trim that one as well. Okay, if we go to inside, you're going to see this extra right there. So this time reverse, we're going to use the blue one to trim this extra out. So now, and we need to do that for both sides. Let me see. All right, so we trim one side, we want to trim again to trim this interior. All right, so now you trim all the extra. We just need to join them. Now that become one single shell. Let me turn it into a render view, and that's what we have today, a texture ring band. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in my other video.